Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. Welcome to Art Talk Tuesday. As you can see, I have something here for you to look at that's a little different than what you're used to seeing from me. Every once in a while, I break out and do something different. Here we have something different. This piece is actually made from a coffee table. It is functional. It's an actual working coffee table. The image has been fixed on the top with some clear varnish that does not shine, some matte varnish, so that it can be fully usable. You can sit tables, cups, all that kind of stuff on it, and everything will be fine. The dimensions are 43 inches wide by 24 inches high by 16 inches tall. This is a coffee table, so it's an interesting story, but let me tell you about the piece a little bit more before we get into that. So the piece is titled The Anointing. It is the fifth image in my Ascension series. Kind of a catch-all, but not quite. But this is the fifth image in that series, and it is painted in acrylic. And like I said, it is covered with a thick matte finish. It's got 4 coats of matte finish on it, so it is fully varnished, and nothing can touch it or degrade the image. So the interesting story, I was walking down the street at my old place. This was approximately 2019, just before the lockdown. I had just recently moved into my home at that time, and I'm going down the street, and I see this table sitting out, and all of a sudden something in me just jumped and leapt. This table just spoke to me, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I should paint something on that. But I didn't stop and do anything. You know, people sit things out in the corner all the time. I'm like, you know, it could have bed bugs in there. Who knows how long it's been there? I'm not going to touch it. So I went on about my business, went my way, came back, and I swear it was still sitting there. And I'm telling you, something in me just leapt like, you got to do something with this. You got to do something with this. Many of you will know from my other piece, The Son of Man Ascends, which was a large piece of wooden board that I found sitting on the side of the road that just spoke to me and called out to me. If you're interested in learning about that piece, you can go to that video on The Son of Man Ascends. That's number 1 in the Ascension series. So here we have number 5, wooden tables. A thick wooden table. It's not one of these cheap little pressed wood. This is actual solid, hard wood. It's got solid, hard legs. Very hard to break or damage, but fully functional, like I said. So the title of this image is Ascension 5, The Anointing. And so we have this whole idea here of this figure being anointed. Many of you are familiar with the term anointing, and particularly if you're in the Christian tradition, you hear about this a lot in terms of the anointing and talking about the whole idea of Jesus as being the Messiah actually meant the anointed one. The Christ in Greek, the Christos, is one who is anointed. So what are we talking about? What does that mean? You also see anointing in many other religious traditions. It's not called the same thing, of course, but it is the same phenomenon, excuse me. And so what we're looking at is this notion of anointing. Anointing is a dispensation of spiritual power that is given to a person or group of persons for the purposes of furthering their talents and gifts. So usually, about 90% of the time, you see that anointing happens to someone and it enhances a gift or talent that they already have innately. And so it is given supernatural power through this anointing, through this increased spiritual connection, increased spiritual power, increased spiritual insight, increased spiritual dynamism, in order for them to do or perform things that they could not perform normally on their own. For instance, myself, yes, of course, I'm a talented artist. I've always had an innate talent for drawing, painting, etc., etc., etc. When someone's work is anointing, that's when you see something and you say, wow, this is just beyond beautiful. It's one of those pieces that just catches you and won't let you go. And you get this sense of ecstasy, of joy from viewing that image. That's something that comes from an anointing. It's something that we do that is beyond our normal human limited capacity. And we see this often even in sports figures. When they do something, you're like, how did you do it? They're like, I don't even know how I did it. It was happening at the time, and I just made the move or whatever. I could see everything coming, and I did it. So we get into these higher states of consciousness, these altered states that allow us to do things that we wouldn't normally be capable of, that seem almost supernatural. And so that's what this piece is about, is the receiving of this anointing. And many of us receive it all the time throughout history. If you look in the Bible, you see stories of like Samson received the extra anointing through his hair for his strength. You see people like Ezekiel and other figures in the Bible who received this anointing, and then they were able to do extraordinary things, prophesy the future, all kinds of things. So that's what we're looking at here. This dispensation of spiritual power is being given to this figure. So I use the orb here as a symbol of that because I wanted it to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? I wanted it to be very, for lack of a term, we'll just say generic, so it can relate to any type of spirituality, not necessarily Christian. We see this in other figures in the Bhagavad Gita. We see it in the story of Abraham. We see it in the Quran, where people are given these extra powers, extra abilities, or have their abilities enhanced through the Spirit. So that's an idea I'm looking at here. So this orb is kind of just a general representation. You see the orb is purple. Purple is a color always associated with deep, strong spiritual power, spiritual connection. And so that's why I made this orb in a purple color here. Also, it's also associated with the crown chakra, which usually floats about an inch above the head, is also associated with purple, to receive that spiritual insight coming down from above. So we see this figure here, and she's opened herself. She's in a state of meditation. As you can see, her eyes are closed. She's been meditating, and she's lifting her arms up to receive this spiritual power, receive this anointing energy. And we have the essence of the power coming forth into her hands, flowing down, so it can flow out, down through the body. And then we see it also coming down and hitting what would be her third eye point, which is also associated with the sixth chakra. Sixth chakra is actually located deep inside the head, associated with the pineal gland. But there's another vortex of energy. We also often conflate them as being the same thing, but they're not. There's another vortex of energy here that actually is the third eye point. And so this energy is coming down into the third eye, coming down deep into the brain and the body, being disseminated throughout. So I wanted to depict that power, this notion of this anointing, this dispensation of power through the figure. See, she has her hands open in a position to receive, eyes closed, meditating, and then this power is being reflected out, radiated out, because when you receive an anointing, it is not for you. It is not power that you can keep for yourself. You cannot hoard it. You cannot keep it. You cannot hold on to it. You have to use it. You have to use it while you have it. You have to use it while it's there. It is not for you to use or keep. It's for the benefit of yourself, but almost always for the benefit of others. So you can use it, have it to perform a single act, or you can have it in an ongoing basis and draw from it in order to perform other acts, depending on what the situations are. So this is the notice of this anointing. So the power is being radiated out from her. And you see I use the aureole here. Well, actually not the aureole. The aureole would be the whole body, but the halo figure here. And this power is emanating out. I have reminiscence of this same magenta that I'm using here in the orb here. And I just kind of integrated the palette. I've got the magenta here in the fingernails, some magenta here in the lips. There's a little bit of magenta here in the figure, and then the facial area right there. Then we've got the different shades of blue. Most of the time when you see these type of radiating images, you see that the image is darker, closer to the figure, and then it goes out and gets lighter as it moves away. So I wanted to play with this notion of power and the whole idea of this power that you can't keep it, you must give it away. So I've got the lighter shades, as you can see, closer to the figure, and then they get darker and become more powerful as they go out away from the figure. So that's my symbolic way of reinforcing that understanding of it. Light radiating out everywhere. Once again, you cannot keep these powers. You must use them for the benefit of others. You must give them away. And through the giving away, as in many things, we become more powerful for it. They say if you're not feeling well or you're feeling depressed, other things, what can you do? One of the things you can do is you can go help somebody else. And in the helping of them, the giving, you too also are received and are blessed and get other things. And so nothing is really given to us to be held on to. We think of things as mine, this is mine. Nothing's really yours. Everything is on loan from spirit because you really couldn't make it and you really couldn't have it unless Spirit allows you to have it. So this whole idea of giving away. So we receive this power, we receive these insights, we receive these blessings to what? Be a blessing to others, to be a blessing to the planet, to be a blessing to the world. And so this whole idea, this notion of anointing is about that, receiving that power from Spirit in order to go forward and use it in the world. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next Our Talk Tuesday.